Don't try and blame this on me. How dare you? Hi.
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 So Mandy and I often talk about and relate to each other about anxiety and just general mental health. I thought it would be great if we made a little video answering questions that maybe you guys have and just kind of sharing your experiences, because I think that helps the most when you can relate to other people and say, oh, I feel that too, and I didn't know it was because of this, or it's okay that I'm feeling that way. And so just a little background on the types of anxiety or whatever we both deal with. I have experience with depression and anxiety. My anxiety usually stems from, like the worse my depression is, the worse my anxiety is. And I have social anxiety, and what that normally looks like is I stress and stress and stress before I have some kind of something where I have to go see people, or I'm in charge of something, or just anything where people are involved. So much so that I can get physically ill before, like my family and I. It's embarrassing, but we like to call it nervous poops. And it's not, it's funny, like we can laugh at it, but it's actually like really debilitating when you can't go anywhere because you're literally stuck in the bathroom. Or after a social encounter, I will often spend the next several hours thinking about, like I shouldn't have said this, or I did this wrong, or they probably think this, or so it really carries. And I can be up, for hours, or avoid going places and seeing people because of me thinking that I had said something wrong, like the last time I had seen them or something. Are you tired of seeing my booty?
No, I love your booty. Damn! For those of you who don't know, I'm Mandy, and I have struggled with anxiety for the majority of my life since I was a small child, beginning with panic disorder, which is basically just reoccurring panic attacks based on that stem from various things, so I'll be normal walking down the street or in a movie theater, and all of a sudden I'll feel my heart start to race and I can't breathe. It's like the air's been taken out of my lungs. I feel disoriented, like I'm not in my body. It's very uncomfortable and scary, and I've struggled with those forever. On the other side, more towards my adulthood, probably from when I was 18, I started struggling really with Pure O, which is the primarily obsessive version of obsessive compulsive disorder, which means I don't have typical compulsions like cleaning or washing my hands or checking or numbers. I have more ruminations, which means reoccurring, replaying things in my head, asking for reassurance, asking people, do you think I would do this? Do you think I would, do you think these bad things would happen? Or avoidance, which is where I would avoid certain scenarios that I thought would cause me to have what are intrusive thoughts, which are pretty graphic and harmful thoughts that kind of intrude into your brain. So, yeah. You struggle with OCD, and you didn't know.
I didn't know, actually Mandy has been the one to kind of point it out to me that I have some OCD tendencies. I wouldn't necessarily say that I have OCD, but I do have some compulsion things. It doesn't like rule my life or anything. But there have just been a few times when I'm like, I do this, and Mandy's like, yeah, that's OCD. And I'm like, no, it's not. On to questions.
So, question 1 from Kat. Want to hold hands? This is a very stressful thing for us. No?
No.
At what age, from Kat McCampbell, at what age did you first become depressed / have anxiety issues? And how did you learn to handle it?
I think the first time I really experienced depression was probably in high school. I never like saw someone for depression. I did see someone for like an eating disorder, but I don't think that I was depressed at the time. I think I always knew I had depression, like influences in my life, but I never really classified it as that, I guess. And it wasn't until my early 20s that I started having anxiety.
For me,
Just both of us.
Oh. Okay. Anyways, sorry. I had my first panic attack when I was 5 at my aunt's house back when I lived in California. It's kind of a funny story. I was watching Tarzan, and a stressful part came when the cheetah is trying to get baby Tarzan. If anyone's seen it.
Oh, I was thinking George of the Jungle
No.
for some reason.
That would have been really funny.
That part is stressful.
And so I started to breathe heavily, and I noticed that I became short of breath. And as a 5-year-old, I think you're not typically super aware, but as someone who suffers with panic, I was very quickly aware that I couldn't breathe, and I became very fearful and disoriented. And my dad came and picked me up and kind of explained to me that throughout most of his teens he had suffered with panic disorder and things like that, just as much as you can explain to a little kid. And it didn't flare up again really until I was in my later years of high school, and I would get panic very often, panic attacks, doing various things, not really with any cause. And OCD, I think I've had also my whole life, but I didn't realize it as prevalent until maybe 4 years ago, shortly after my husband and I started dating. I could tell that it was a little bit debilitating, just intrusive thoughts and ruminations and asking for reassurance and things like that.
Next question from Indy Kayla. How do you each handle anxiety and music that keeps you calm?
Okay, how I handle anxiety for the most part is through techniques that I learned in therapy, which was cognitive behavioral therapy. I went to for about 2 years, where I just kind of find the thought that's causing me panic and realizing that I'm in control, and what are real thoughts and what are thoughts that are kind of made up. And music to keep me calm would just be anything that I know really well, that I can sing to, or that really kind of takes me out of my element. Nothing specifically like calming in terms of music.
Yeah, I don't think I have any either. Probably just music that's familiar to me or something, or I don't know. Usually, I mean, we've talked about this obviously, but we watch shows. I feel like listening to a TV show calms me more than listening to music. Because I get music stuck in my head so easily, because I have like an obsessive, like brain tends to obsessive. Is your brain but so yeah, watching, like, just having a TV show on, even if I'm not really watching it, that helps to kind of like shut my brain off a little bit.
Definitely.
But handling anxiety, like, just day to day, I mean, I'm in a better place now because I've dealt with my depression, I guess, so that my anxiety is not so, it's not an everyday thing or even a weekly thing. It's really every few weeks I'll have like one day where I just like really get kind of blown over by it, and it kind of does take up my whole day. And I've just kind of learned to be patient with myself and my body and not trying to fight it, because the more that you fight it, the worse it gets. My therapist, I mean, I've learned a lot of techniques through him, but he kind of just likes to talk about how when your anxiety shows up, the only way to really deal with it is to actually deal with it, instead of being like, no, I'm not dealing with you, because, I mean, it's just like sadness or anything else, or anger, like it just is going to build and build and build, and then one thing will set you off and it will be hard to recover from. So just like, I mean, I think we were going to talk about techniques further down because there's more questions about that, but just to like give myself some time to be in the anxiety, well, ends up making it less than if I ignored it, I guess. I don't know.
So from NMG, who did you first turn to when you realized what you were going through, and how did they react? For me, my dad has both obsessive compulsive behaviors and panic disorder. Throughout high school he would wake up with panic attacks and stuff, so it was really easy to turn to him and kind of discuss with him like what panic feels like, and how to realize that it's not true, and you know, you can breathe, or you're not going to have a heart attack, or you know, feeling really disoriented. It's almost like I forget what it's called, but it's a state of feeling like you're not really in your body. You know, it's kind of like you're an out-of-body experience a little bit. Just feeling like nothing's real, and do I know where I am, and things like that. And he really helped me to walk me through what all those things meant and what they felt like, and you know, that it wasn't weird or a scary thing, because I know a lot of people think they might be going crazy or having some kind of health problem. And luckily I'm really grateful to my dad, because I learned a lot from him. And
for me, I think with depression, I knew my mom had suffered and still does suffer from depression, and I have a sibling that does as well. I guess it was not really like a turning to them, but just kind of like I do this, and having them be like, yeah, I do that too. And just kind of a reassuring, like, that is this, or like, you know, not thinking that I'm just the only one that does it or whatever. And then anxiety is still fairly new to me. I mean, it's been only within the last... It's not going to be genuine now.
it's still ill to me. I like hearing you say that.
Okay, anyways, what I was saying before the camera cut off is anxiety is still fairly new to me. It's only been within the last 5 years that I've really struggled with it. So Mandy's really been the one that I've been able to talk to about it. I have friends that have it, but either they're fairly new to it or they aren't comfortable talking about it. But yeah, so it's been nice to be like, I do this, or I do this, and have her be like, yeah, I do that too, and it's because of this, or, you know, and I'm like, yay, I'm not crazy, or having some kind of mental breakdown. Kai Wallflower, what do you do to get yourself out of a rut? Changing my outlook on life seems to be the hardest obstacle.
When I'm in kind of a rut, like for me, I feel sometimes like this impending doom or something like that, where it's like a weight on my chest for periods of time. And I guess for that, it's really like that kind of cheesy quote, or the best way out is through, or something like that. That I think is true. Like, I just kind of live my regular day-to-day. I do things that I like, or I don't try to do anything too crazy or different, because I think when you're anxious, you want to be comfortable. You know, you don't want to put yourself in any situations where you're going to be uncomfortable. For my OCD, for me, when I get kind of in a dark place of intrusive thoughts for long periods of time, it's important for me to just stay in the same mindset that I learned through CBT, which is just really to be understanding of what is real and what's not real. And even if things come into your mind over and over again, just like Bree said, letting them in and letting yourself think about them and not trying to push them away, or, you know.
Yeah, it only makes it worse.
Yeah, so to just really allow thoughts to come in and know they're not real and let them out.
Yeah. Depression, I feel like, it's hard to notice when you're in a rut with depression, because at least for me, like, yes, I get sad when I'm depressed, but it's mostly like I don't feel anything towards anything, so I have no motivation to do anything. I have no interest in seeing people. I have no interest in the things that I usually like to do. It's hard to get out of bed. It's hard to want to get ready for the day. It's hard to just do normal everyday things, and I feel like it's hard to recognize that, because it's just like, whatever, I just don't want to do those things. Who cares? I'm just not going to do them. Really, the only thing to do is just do the things that you know are going to make you feel better. I mean, that's the hardest part, is just saying, like, I really don't want to do this thing right now. I don't want to pick up my camera and go outside and take pictures, or I don't want to go meet with a friend, but it's really what is going to make you feel better. My therapist likes to say that depression is comfortable. Even though it's like not a fun place to be, we still can get comfortable in our depression, and our depression wants us to stay in that comfort zone, and that's why it wants us to, it's like, no, I don't want to get up and do that. I don't want to go and feel better. And the only way to really fight that and get through it is to get up and go do the things that, and obviously I'm not saying like to push yourself so hard that it's backfiring, but like just to do the little things that you know will slowly help you feel, like start doing yoga at home, or start, like pick up a new book, go to the library, like just little things.
Okay, Alexa Sheets. When and how did you figure out that you actually had anxiety/depression as opposed to normal sadness, for the lack of a better term?
Like without getting too specific, because it's kind of a personal experience, but earlier this year, because I think this year has been kind of the hardest with my mental health being terrible. In like midsummer, I had kind of like a rock bottom where I realized that it wasn't normal what I was feeling, and that the stuff that I was trying to do shouldn't be so hard to do. And then just talking with my mom, really, and having her just be like, go see someone, or try and make the changes you need to make to start feeling better. And so I think I knew that I feel like anxiety is a lot easier. I wouldn't say it's like easy to admit that you have anxiety, but I think it's an easier thing for people to accept than depression, because I feel like people can be, they're like, oh, like nervousness and panic, and like I understand that, but the second people want to talk about sadness or lack of feeling, or like they kind of freeze up and get scared and they don't want to talk about it. So I feel like I always knew I had anxiety, and I assumed that I was dealing with depression, but it really wasn't until this kind of like rock bottom time of my life when everything kind of just came to a point that it was like, either I get help or this is going to be my life for forever, or maybe not, maybe I choose to give up. I don't want to talk, I don't know if you want to talk about suicide, but you do get to a point where you're just like, if this is my life, do I really want to keep living it? I wouldn't say that I was like suicidal or anything, but I just think it was when it got as bad as it did that I finally realized and was able to say that this is a thing that I have and I need to go get help for it. But it probably would have helped if I had been able to admit it and identify it a lot sooner, but
that's definitely hard.
Yeah.
For me, it probably, well, my panic I just kind of assumed was there with me, and it was hard, but not in comparison to starting really to deal with working with panic while also having coexisting kind of mental health issues like OCD. So probably towards the beginning of my relationship, like I said with Paul, my husband, was when I really realized that it was debilitating. And I think that's really the biggest sign for people, is that it's when it starts to affect your everyday life. I would have these thoughts. Bree brought up suicide, and I've never been suicidal. I don't suffer from depression, but one of the things with OCD, like I said, is intrusive thoughts. And for me, a lot of my intrusive thoughts came with a fear of becoming depressed and therefore becoming suicidal and self-harm. And I was just so fearful of it that I didn't want to do anything. I wouldn't want to walk past knives. I didn't want to look off tall buildings, because I thought like somehow I would lose control of myself and hurt myself for no reason, even though it wasn't something I really struggled with. And so for me, I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to I was afraid to take showers, because I thought I'd be quiet with my head and what might I think about, or things like that. And it was really a struggle, and to leave the house, stuff like that. I was just fearful, and to the point where it really came between having fun and living my life and things like that. And I think that's when you can start to notice that it's not normal, when you're causing severe damage to your life and your relationships. So
yeah. Well, and even before my kind of like I need to go get help thing, like it affected my day-to-day, but I guess I always was like, I'm still in control of it though. Mm-hmm. So it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. But if I had just said before or earlier, or maybe even just had someone say, like, this isn't normal, you shouldn't, not want to leave the house and stuff. So I don't know.
And I feel like we keep using the term too normal, and that's a hard word to use, because like of course, like, you're normal, these problems are normal, so many people suffer from them, and there's no right way to have a chemical in your head. There's no perfect person, but just when you can't enjoy things anymore, I think is probably the best way to put it.
Hey, Ray, hey. I don't know if either one of you struggle with social anxiety, but I've newly begun to have issues with that, particularly with eating in the cafeteria at my school. Sometimes I skip meals because I can't deal with it. If you have any tips, that would be awesome. I usually have anxiety like before I'm going to hang out with people or before I have to go do something that is involving being in front of people. Once I'm there, I usually am okay. I mean, I had a few instances where when I worked in an office for like maybe 6 months, I was in a cubicle and I would get panic attacks when I wasn't there. That wasn't really social. I guess one little technique that I use, my therapist taught me, anxiety is us thinking into the future, basically. We're panicking about something that probably won't happen or isn't happening in the, like right then. The best thing to do is kind of get your mind back into the present and focusing on what's going on right then. I've heard other people talk about this. I think I have another friend that does it, but when you're feeling panicky, a good thing to do is to find 3 things that you can see, touch, feel, and hear, I think. And it kind of just, well, it helps shut your mind off of like all of the panicky thoughts, and it just kind of brings you into like where you actually are, and you can feel like where I am right now, I'm safe and okay, and this panicky thought isn't really that important because all I have to worry about is what's happening right here in front of me right now. Another one is, and so it sounds strange, but my therapist taught me this, is you just focus all of your energy, you just like hold out your hand like this and focus all of your energy onto just like the feeling in your palm, which sounds so weird because there's nothing in it, you don't feel like you're really feeling, but if you can just like sit quiet and just like focus all your energy onto, I mean, just the feeling that you have feeling in your palm. Even if you could just do it for 10 seconds, maybe you can do it for a full minute, but I've found that it like greatly like decreases the amount of anxiety that I feel. And other little things are like listening to a ticking clock, but you're listening for the silences in between the ticks. And it just kind of helps your brain shut down a little bit and disconnect from the panic and just focus on where you actually are in the moment and not what you're thinking might be coming in the future. That didn't really help for social anxiety, but
I think that's good.
I've never had a fear about eating. I know that is a big anxiety thing. I think a lot of people have anxiety about eating in front of people. I've never had that, so I wouldn't know.
Crowds, I would assume, in the cafeteria.
Oh, yeah.
Like crowds, I think, are a popular one, and maybe just sit towards the end of the cafeteria, like small ways where you just know you have an exit or
right.
Things like that, or sit with people who make you comfortable, and don't feel ashamed if you do have to sit outside for lunch,
right.
Or
like it's okay to know your boundaries, and sometimes, I mean, I know we talked about getting out of your comfort zone, but sometimes it is okay to say, I can't handle that, so I'm going to be sensitive to it and do something that I can do. Not everybody can do everything the same way as, you know, we're all different and everything. We have different ways of living, so.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is from my friend Chloe Howard, or she just says, my sister struggles with anxiety and I'd like to be able to support her better. What are things that your loved ones could do that help you / lift you up?
For me, I think it's just being understanding, and like with people in panic too, I think it's hard to, you know, not be like, well, why don't you just calm down or just forget about it,
or being
you know?
like, why are you panicking?
Yeah,
Nothing's
like,
going on. I mean, literally the smallest thing could make me like, even just like new people coming in. It doesn't matter what it is, you know. It's like it doesn't need to make sense, I guess.
Right.
Like, don't make them feel like they have to be like, this is it, and this is why it's logical, because most of the time it's not logical.
No, it's almost never logical. Yeah, I think just to be understanding and kind of let them know you're here and give them the space they need, or talk to them about anything they want, you know, just try and make the situation as comfortable as possible. I mean, really it has to just do with being understanding and, you know, remembering that just because someone's not doing your best doesn't mean they're not doing their best, and, you know, they're trying to deal with it, and everyone handles these things differently, so just being there and a positive influence. And with me, you know, my constant need for reassurance, people say, oh no, you wouldn't do that, this is why, you know, just being there, trying not to get annoyed and be like, oh, this again, you know, just trying to be a positive influence of in someone's life and being there, because sometimes people really do need attention and sometimes they don't, and it's just about,
I mean, even just asking them what they need. I mean, they might not know, but maybe just giving them a chance to think about what they need, saying, what can I do? You know, if it's like in the moment, like I am going to have an anxiety attack, or I'm feeling uncomfortable, I need to get out, you know, just saying like, what can I do to help? Or do you just want to be left alone? Or do you want to talk about it? You know, like, I mean, just normal. As long as you're there and you're not being one of those people that's like, I don't get it, or like, why are you anxious? Like, you really can do no wrong. I mean, if they can just feel your support and love, then you're probably doing okay.
Yeah. Wait, how do you, Camillero says, I struggle with anxiety and on occasion depressions. The holiday is when it hits the hardest. How do you find the motivation to stay, the motive to stay creative and moving forward when all you want to do is quit? This really feels like a depression question, you know, like, because I think with anxiety, like I said, you have less feelings of hopelessness most of the time. Not always. I've definitely had my feeling of hopelessness, but I think a lot of times it's more fear, and so you're kind of restless and need to be doing something and going. And with depression or hopelessness, from that can be caused a lot of times by anxiety. It makes you feel unmotivated, and so I'll leave this to you.
This year, like, even though I feel like I'm moving in a great place as far as my mental health goes, Thanksgiving and Christmas was actually really hard to get myself motivated to see family. I get a lot of anxiety when it comes to extended family, because a lot of my depression, anxiety has stemmed from infertility, and when I think about seeing extended family, I start to panic because I know they're going to want to talk to me about infertility, and I'm just like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to have that be my thing, that everybody needs to, like, that I should just have this big red sign that says infertility on my forehead. I didn't know, I mean, Christmas is in a few days. I didn't know if we were going to come for Christmas this year, because I wasn't feeling like seeing family, and we didn't come for Thanksgiving. Not necessarily because of that, but I didn't really try hard because I didn't really feel like confronting people and being in social situations. I mean, if you can just find something that you can feel confident in, maybe try not to like let what other people might be thinking, or what they're doing, or what they ask you, or how you think that they see you, just let it roll off of your shoulders. It's like such a hard thing to do. It's so much easier said than done, but in the last few months I've just kind of been learning how to just let what I think people think about me, or what maybe people actually do think about me, and just kind of letting it be, and not letting it stress me out so bad that I can't go see people, because I'm like, what are they going to think? What are they, are they thinking I'm making the wrong life choices, or all that stuff. And just what I said before about forcing yourself to do little things will make you feel better. If you like to create, if you like to make music, if you like to, go outside, go on a hike, just having little things that you can make you get out will maybe help. I don't even know if that even make any sense.
It does. So from A. Gilles, I hope that's right, she asks, what should you not do if you're having an anxiety attack or feeling very stressed? For me personally, when I'm having an anxiety attack, the one thing that I should not do is try to find my way out of it or understanding it, because I have spent many times trying to find ways to understand what is causing my anxiety attack, and I think a lot of times it really has nothing to do with anything. They're just happening because of where you are or the time frame, and you can't piece it together right now in the moment when you're freaking out. You just need to let all that go and just get to a comfortable place and not think about, like, why is this happening? What does this mean? Because when you're in a panic, you can't sort that stuff out. You can't sort out thoughts. It's just trying to exist is hard enough. So don't put any more pressure on yourself, and don't be around anyone that makes you feel unsafe. Like, if you need to be away from people, then tell people. And if they can't understand that, then they don't need to be around. I'm sorry, like, you don't need them in your life, and that's poison to people, I think, with mental health issues. You feel like you need to impress people or not seem like the weird person who's having all these issues, but like for a lack of better terms, like if someone's going to be really hateful about how you feel, then they can go screw themselves. So our good friend Bridget kind of asked, when you have panic attacks, when you are in a group of people and it makes your panic or anxiety worse, what to do. She said, would you still try and step away, and what are some mental tricks to use in situations like these, or to mentally use to prepare beforehand? Since I don't struggle with depression, Bree and I talked about this a lot, I tend to have a little bit more of a upfront attitude when it comes to my mental health and things like that, where I feel like if someone's going to judge me or make me feel less than, then so be it. And so when I go in situations where I feel embarrassed of my anxiety or my panic, I just tend to like say, sorry guys, this is it, this is my life, this is how my whole life has been. And we're in an age now where I feel like if I'm not at the forefront of talking about and discussing my mental health, then there's so many people who go unheard. I try and make it part of conversation. Now that being said, not a lot of people can do that. That sounds like really uppity on myself. I don't mean it like that. I just mean it's stressful for a lot of people to discuss. You know, you're around people who aren't so understanding, and I think of course you should still step away. If you need to make an excuse, then make an excuse. And if you feel comfortable enough to tell the truth, then people, for the most part, people are going to love you and try to understand.
Yeah. I think you'll be surprised. I mean, I'm genuinely more surprised that people are understanding and even saying, oh, I do the same thing, I totally understand. Like, I feel like you get into this mindset that you're the only one that's feeling that way. When you do say, like, I'm feeling anxious, which I think is a really good thing to do, because it kind of gives you the power instead of the anxiety, because you're saying, like, I see it, I understand that it's here, and I'm not trying to ignore it. It allows other people to say, oh, I struggle with that, and I feel anxious during these situations too. You know, you might be able to end up feeling more comfortable because you spoke up, and making someone else feel more comfortable because you spoke up. But I'm totally approve of if you need to get out, just get out. What is the point of forcing yourself to just be miserable? There have been plenty of times where I'm just like, I gotta get out of here, and it's just like, it is what it is.
And plus I think it looks more strange to be forcing conversation and forcing yourself than to just go into the bathroom and take a minute, or go sit in your car, or, you know, just be wherever you need to be. Or I think being open is really important, and to just try to be true to yourself and your needs, because if you try to ignore them, I definitely think it's worse. I think if you're far from home, which I had real struggle with that, just not being able to get back to my safe place. I have that same fear on planes, you know, if you're panicking, you can't get off. Really just trying to be like present to where you are and what's happening right now in the moment. Really just being true to yourself, because first and foremost, no one else is going to understand the situation or what's best in the situation more than you. So just trying to be true to yourself, and that's not always easy, so it takes practice and time and lots of uncomfortable situations. So just be willing to be a work in progress, I guess, is the most important thing.
I don't know how to say this. Carlessa?
Carlessa.
Okay. How do you go about explaining your anxiety to people who don't understand? I found it difficult to explain what I'm feeling to others.
This is a heavy question, because I think a lot of people just won't understand. Just like anything in life, I think if someone hasn't really experienced it, they have a hard time understanding why and what's causing it and things like that. So for me, explaining what I have is I try to make light of everything before I get heavy into the conversation. Like, to just be light about, this is kind of what it is, this is how I feel sometimes. Sometimes I get really freaked out in the movie theater, and I don't know why. I might just have to leave randomly, but don't mind me, you know, like, just making it an easy conversation for everyone instead of making it like, let's sit down, and
Right.
have this conversation. You
know,
know,
just
just
tell you the deepest, darkest things that you are not going to understand.
yeah, just making it really easy for people to grasp. You know, like with OCD, I tell people, yeah, a lot of people imagine that it's kind of like I just like to clean the house, or I wash my hands a lot, and kind of be like, well, it's not, for me, it's not really like that. It's kind of, I get fearful about things that have to do with morality or impending doom or things like that. And so you might see me do this, and don't worry about it. It's no big deal. And, you know, just kind of trying to make light of a conversation that, unless it has to be really intense, just don't make it, because then it comes off heavier than it needs to, I think.
And then it makes it so that they don't want to talk about it with people, you know, and the whole point is to let it be a thing people can talk about. Social anxiety, I feel like people maybe get that. I mean, it's not like a hard thing to comprehend, but
you just say, bitch, sometimes I get worried about things.
I mean, I think the only way to explain it is just explaining it. Like, this is what I do, or this is how I feel, or this is the thought process I have. And I feel like if you're just kind of saying it like that, like, I know it sounds strange and maybe you don't understand it, but this is what it is. You know, like, I don't think it's really logical, but this is what I feel. And a lot of times people either say, I felt those things too, or like, wow, I never knew that, I never would have known that, like, I just don't even think of things that way, like, that's so interesting that you would feel that way. I don't know, I've never really had anybody be rude about it when you're actually saying things like, this is what I'm feeling. Sometimes it can be rude if you're just saying, I have anxiety, you know.
Like, oh, this again.
Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Every time I'm just like, does that make sense?
I think that's what I mean. No, yeah, I agree. I think it's really just about being open. You know, you have to be open with yourself too first when I think of coming to admit that this might be a problem, or maybe it's not, maybe it's passing, or, you know, just kind of understanding yourself. And you should do a lot more emotional digging within yourself before you have any kind of I mean, not like with the therapist, obviously you should talk to them, or people you're close to, but just people you don't know. I feel like you should be comfortable with how you feel and what you're saying before you.
Right. So if you're not in a place where you're comfortable with, you know, saying this is what I'm feeling, because maybe you don't even know what it is that you're feeling, then it's okay to steer clear from those situations and not want to talk to people about it yet. I mean, I think you should want to get to a point where you could at least talk to about it, the people closest to you. Not necessarily like strangers or everyone you know, but it's okay to be in a place where you're not ready to talk about what it is you're feeling, right?
I totally agree. Okay, last question is from Jessie LaRue, who says, my anxiety and depression makes it nearly impossible to get up in the morning. I'm late everywhere I go. Do you have problems with that too? Any good ideas to get yourself going? You definitely don't have problems with getting places.
Late. No, actually, because I have social anxiety and I feel better once I get to the place, I'm always early, and that's also just like a thing. I don't like being late anyways. I'm usually even like 15 to 20 minutes early to things. But as far as like getting up and having just like not having the motivation to get up, and I don't know, I have a friend who recently got a dog. I'm not saying that's a solution, but, you know, having something to take care of really helped her with getting up in the morning. Was like, if I don't get up, this dog needs to be let out, they're gonna pee on the floor. Like, I don't know, maybe finding something to give you the motivation to get up. I really enjoy making breakfast in the morning, so that's a big thing that I look forward to doing in the morning, and that kind of just kickstarts my day. Morning yoga, I think, is good.
Yeah, I think just having a routine, kind of creating a routine of things you have to get done in the morning will kind of do wonders for you, you know, because you feel, as if you have a plan, an obligation, you feel more inclined to, just like you said with the dog, okay, well, if I don't do this, then this will happen.
Yeah.
So you just make a routine, like, if I can just get up to make a breakfast, then it leads to, and then if I can just get up to do this, and you kind of set mini goals for yourself.
And eventually it really won't be I have to get up to do. I mean, you'll
Want to.
and you won't even really have to think about it. Like, oh, it's time to make breakfast. Like, it really doesn't take too many times of doing something before it's really not hard anymore. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this helped even a little bit.
Yeah. If you have any questions or thoughts that you'd like to share, please do so. We love to hear other people's stories, and reach out, because I think everyone needs help, and you know, it's great to have a friend to talk about this stuff with. So we're here, and thanks for watching. Bye.